All right, let's talk Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs have been playing a lot better football as of late. I mean, they turned themselves back into a juggernaut, it seems, overnight, and the rest of the NFL is absolutely terrified right now, as they should be. But I don't even think people understand how good Kansas City has become and how good they are going to be going forward. We got some incredible data and some incredible news for you guys, which we'll get to in just one second. But first, I'm Nick, that is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, this Kansas City Chief team was left for dead after a rough start to the season, at least offensively, right? Not so good against the Chargers, kind of ugly against Philly. Even beating the Giants didn't look great, but they have turned it on in short order. Outstanding job by the Chiefs coaching staff, the Chiefs players. Really incredible move across the board from what this franchise has done. But it's even more impressive than just playing better in the context of this season versus their competition. They are very quickly returning back to their peak offensive form. Let's get into this first report. Rather, it's a post on X, then we'll get into some very interesting data. And this post is courtesy of Brett Coleman. He runs the All 32 YouTube channel. Very smart guy, a lot into the analytics and research. He's a good source. Highly recommend you give him a follow if you haven't already. He posted the best scoring drive the Chiefs have ever had in the Mahomes era was, of course, 2018. Makes sense. That was Mahomes' emergence at a whopping 52.9%. No other Chiefs season in this era ever got above 50%, except for 2025. They're currently at 52.3%. So right now in 2025, at this point in the season, the only year that's been comparable in terms of efficiency, in terms of scoring drive percentage, was that 2018 Chiefs squad that absolutely lit the NFL on fire as Mahomes emerged and no one knew what to do with them. Of course, with a bunch of talented receivers. We're talking Tyreek Hill, Kelsey in his prime. I mean, they were just a juggernaut that season. It looks like they're returning to that form this season. But it's a different kind of Chiefs team, right? They don't have the superstar skill players. Kelsey is in his prime. There's no Tyreek Hill. I love you, Tyquan Thornton. I love you, Juju Smith-Schuster. Xavier Worthy's a nice, young, explosive playmaker for sure. Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice from suspension, right? But none of these guys are all pros, and they've been dealing with issues, right? Obviously, the Rice suspension. You look at the Simmons issue at left tackle. Whatever's going to go on there, wish him the best. Hope he's able to return at some point, of course. But it's not like this Chiefs team hasn't had adversity, both internal and external. And yet, despite that, they've overcome all of that and have become one of the better offenses in football in short order. In fact, let's go to our first graphic here, Miles, if you don't mind, courtesy of True Media, our analytics website. We love working with, highly recommend True Media. They do a really good job. The number one platform, in our opinion, for football analytics. But this is just a plot right here of offensive touchdowns. That's the y-axis versus the total plays, offensive plays. So you can see right there, working left to right, offensive plays. The Kansas City Chiefs are in the upper right-hand quadrant. They're among the leaders in offensive plays. But more importantly, they're fourth in the NFL in offensive touchdowns, behind only the Detroit Lions and the Dallas Cowboys, two high-flying offenses, and the Indianapolis Colts, which has surprised a lot of people with their hyper-efficiency. But right now, the Kansas City Chiefs, again, after a very slow start in terms of total offensive touchdowns, fourth in the National Football League. Really impressive stuff. Again, remember, this was not a team that was firing on all cylinders right out the gate. They've picked up the tempo extremely, even with all this adversity. Let's go to our next graphic here to get deeper into some analytics. I'm talking about EPA per play. We've got, again, plays on the x-axis. We've got offensive total EPA on the y. You can see on an EPA per play basis, an EPA, for anyone who's not familiar, is expected points added per play. It's basically an analytical approach of how successful a play was and the expected points you should get from that play. So, for example, if you score a touchdown on a play, that play is worth 6 points, right? If you throw a pick six, that play is worth -6 on an EPA basis and everything in between, right? That's basically how it works. And here the Chiefs, once again, among the best in football, behind only Dallas and Indianapolis in terms of EPA per play. When you look at this graphic right here, behind only Indy and Dallas in terms of total offensive EPA. And you can see on a per play basis, they actually have had more plays than Dallas and Indy. And there's been a lot of teams that have had significantly, right around the same amount of plays as Kansas City. A few like the 49ers have had significantly more, but much lower total EPA. Makes sense, right? The more plays you get, you would expect your total EPA to drop on a per play basis just because not every play can score, right? It's just the way it works just from a mathematical perspective. But the Chiefs really clicking on all cylinders offensively. They're doing great things this season. Again, in short order, after a slow start, becoming a top 3 offense in the NFL. But it's even more important than that. Let's go to our final graphic here. This is EPA per play by year, right? So on the y-axis, you've got EPA per play. And on the x-axis there, you've got years. You got 2019 for Kansas City only now, only the Chiefs, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 23, 24, and so far in 2025. And you can see in 2019, right, good year. 20 down a little bit, still good. 21 still good. 22 spike up. 23 massive dip. 24 again not so good, but 25 is back up near that 21, 22, 2019 range. Again, this Kansas City Chiefs offense, Brett Coleman pointed out in his analytics research and other data backs it up as well. They're as efficient as they've ever been under Patrick Mahomes, right? And this is without Tyreek Hill. This is Kelsey past his prime, right? This is with a lot of change and volatility on the offensive line. I mean, they're playing a seventh round rookie in Brashard Smith, who's doing great things, right? We did a film review of him a few days ago. Check it out if you haven't seen it already. But they're playing a lot of new faces, a lot of new guys, and they're just as efficient as they were 4 or 5 years ago when they were a veteran stacked team. This Kansas City team is really good right now, but with all these new pieces, all the volatility, all these young guys, they are only going to get better. And folks, that should terrify the rest of the National Football League. All right, Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of this. But first, let's take a second here to hear from our sponsor of today's video. I wanted to take a minute in today's video to talk about something that's really important to me, guys, and that is food. Look, we all know, of course, we all have family obligations, right? You're never going to sacrifice family. You got work stuff, right? Got to make money somehow. And for darn sure, at least and I know you guys probably feel the same way, not skimping out on any football. Going to watch the games, of course. But where does that leave enough time to prepare tasty meals to fill us up and get the calories, proteins, and all that stuff we need to fulfill our active lifestyles? At least I know in my case, right? I got a young daughter at home. I'm trying to stay fit. I'm trying to, move around as best I can. But my wife and I, we're running around with our hair on fire half the time while also doing our work stuff, other family stuff, the football stuff, right? I mean, is there enough time to sit and prepare and eat a bunch of meals? Of course not. And that's the case with a lot of people these days. Everyone's got busy lifestyles. That's where snacks come in. And look, I know a lot of people, snacks traditionally aren't the tastiest thing. They don't really hit the good calorie protein requirements that I know a lot of us are going for. And that's why I'm excited to talk about our sponsor today, and that is Chomps. And I got one of their meat sticks right here, guys. I tell you what, I know a lot of people say meat stick. Is it tasty? My opinion, this stuff is delicious. I love their barbecue flavors, but the best part, in my opinion, 100 calories. We're talking 10 grams of protein, 0 grams of sugar. So it checks all the boxes I'm looking for in terms of nutrient requirements, again, to just fit into my active lifestyle. Chomps is one of those things that, I wish I'd known about it before because it's such a tasty snack. And once you start eating them, guys, you won't stop. I've never been a meat stick kind of guy until I tried Chomps. These things are off the chain. And here's the best part, guys. If you go to chomps.com/SMI, again, link in the description box below, you'll get 15% off your next order. Big discount there. We're talking tasty snacks, 100 calories, 10 grams of protein. I love it. You got to try it if you haven't already. Go to chomps.com/SMI to get your 15% discount today. All right, Myers, now over to you. Give me your thoughts on all things Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs, like you said, they're looking really impressive. They're getting better and better by the day. And this team, they're dangerous. They're looking really strong this season. Like you said, one of the highest converting teams as far as scoring drives goes for this team. And I think that's really important. And then when you look at the Brett Coleman tweet, I think it just points out that this team's on a trajectory. I don't think people are really giving them enough credit of some of the great teams throughout history for this Chiefs dynasty. The teams that are able to score consistently like this, those are teams that make deep runs in the playoffs. And as this team did start out a little bit slow, I think they're getting better and better. And I think if you go down through the comments, there's another chart in the Brett Coleman tweet down there. I think another interesting part to all of this is you see all these teams talking about, being able to score on percentage of drives. And that's nice. And a lot of teams, there's a lot of garbage time stats in there that help things out, boost your stats. And when you look at the Chiefs, you look at Patrick Mahomes on this chart, he's under 2% of touchdowns and yardage in garbage time, by far the lowest of all quarterbacks in the NFL. So all of these stats, all of this scoring, it was done in, let's call it, real football moments, real time playing football. This wasn't, at the end of games, when they're up big or maybe down big, getting a ton of scoring drives thrown in there to really boost them up above average. No, this is Patrick Mahomes. He's doing it. It's all like actual teams trying to stop them from scoring. The game is on the line all the time. He is that clutch guy. He has that, gene in him, the ability to do this kind of stuff. So I think this shows this Chiefs team is very, very dangerous. And I love the part that you brought up, because I think that's the most important. This is when the Chiefs are at their most dangerous, is the playmakers aren't there anymore. This is not a superstar led team outside Patrick Mahomes and a couple guys on defense. On offense, not really too many superstars to tip your hat to, guys that you can point out as far as leaders of this team. This is Patrick Mahomes and a Chiefs team that they're able to rally the troops and get guys that are below average or young or whatever the case may be and elevate their play, bring them up to a level and get this team rolling in a really cohesive way. I think that's good. I think I'd see the emergence of these guys around the ball coinciding with Travis Kelce tapering off. Probably we're seeing this most likely is his last year, maybe one more year with Kelce on this team. We're starting to see his usage go down. I think that's the best for this team. Is we're seeing other guys start to get the ball. We're seeing Rashee Rice get back in the game, do good stuff. As you said, Hollywood Brown's doing a lot of good stuff. Smith-Schuster. This is a team that they're spreading it around. They're doing a lot of really good stuff. So I think the Chiefs are looking more and more dangerous as we go along this cycle. I think them coming into their own the middle of the season, showing that they can score at will, basically. This is a team over 50% of their drives go for scores. That's really dangerous. And I think everyone else in the league, like you said, should be worried. The Chiefs, they're getting hot once again. The statistics show this is a team you don't want to meet in the playoffs.
And, one final point to end on. We've seen this movie before of a high-flying, explosive quarterback on a dynastic team. Team loses some of the talent. Some players get older, but they become more efficient and in some ways even better. And that, of course, was a New England Patriots Tom Brady dynasty. At the time, we said, we'll never see this again. Tom Brady's transition out of the Moss Welker high-flying offense into a more death by 1,000 cuts hyper-efficiency the last 6, 7, 8 years with the Patriots there. People are like, we've never seen this again. Well, it took all of, 5 seconds. We've seen it again. And it's Patrick Mahomes, right? So, and the Chiefs coaching staff, give credit where credit is due across the board. What the Chiefs have done here is incredibly impressive. I know they're playing better football, and people kind of sit there and say, here come the Chiefs yet again. But the way they're doing it with the personnel they have is absolutely outstanding. Credit to the Kansas City Chiefs. And again, they're the big dog, right? The AFC is wide open, and right now they're emerging, in my opinion, as the team to beat in that conference.